Hi everyone. We will be starting our live session today in regards to what's new in migration field, how to migrate to Australia in 2022, the trends, the situation with different types of visas. So I will be talking about visitor visas, student visas, skilled visas, employer-sponsored visas, parents, partners. So feel free, please, to post your questions in the chat while I'm talking. So I will have the conversation live and I can answer your questions or give you suggestions about your own migration strategy. So just a reminder, who am I? I'm a registered migration agent. My name is Yulia Moiseeva. I run my migration practice from Gold Coast, Queensland. We have a very boutique, small practice, but we have dedicated team, happy to help with all the visas we are running from our office, except protection visas. And we always keeping clients up to date through Facebook and Instagram. So today we'll be talking about trends. And first of all, I would like to answer one of the biggest questions a lot of people has, whether tourists are allowed to come to Australia. Still, we have limitations in regards to just getting a tourist visa and come freely. So there are a couple of countries where if you're fully vaccinated, you can get a tourist visa and come over as quickly as you can. However, with the majority of tourist visas, they're not permitted to come to Australia right now. So I would suggest for those of you who are considering coming to Australia as a tourist to hold off until Australia will open the borders for everyone, because obviously it's going to be a frustration if you happen to get tourist visa and you will not be able to come over for your planned holidays. So another good news for those who are considering student visas, at this moment of time, just recently our government eased work conditions for students, and they will be allowed to work full-time until this arrangement will be reviewed in April 2022. And another good news, if you're planning or you're applying, you already got student visa, you can get government fee refunded. It's also come under the same arrangement to ease students and welcome students back. So currently, if you are a student or stuck overseas or just got a student visa, and if you're fully vaccinated, you will be able to come over and obviously start your studies as soon as possible. So that's the good news for those who are planning to come on student visa. But I would like to remind everybody that student visa is not for everyone due to the costs, and student visa is not automatically guarantee you any permanent residency. So that's a big consideration for you guys, for those who considering whether to come on student visa and take these risks, because student visa can be a good first step to play in a long migration strategy. But for every single case, it needs to be carefully planned what location you are aiming to come on student visa and what program, in order to make your way to permanent residency as quickly as potentially possible. So student visas are happening, and for those who would like to execute student visas, we do assist with processing and enrollment to absolutely any university, any college, because we teamed up with a big educational agency. So it's not a problem for us to offer any sort of program and any solution for your student visa need. In terms of skilled migration, most favored visa 189 is currently limited by numbers from the government, and the invitation rounds are also limited by 4 rounds a year. So if you ever aim to apply for expression of interest for 189 visa, skilled visa, I would strongly recommend use that as an add-on strategy, but not the one and only strategy. The reason for that is you can simply wait for 2 years in the hope that you will get invite for your occupation, but nobody can guarantee you whether you will in fact get it. So my best advice to you guys, if you're skilled and consider skilled visa option, obviously if your occupation is on 189 and 190 visas, please do consider state sponsorship as well, as lodging expression of interest for independent visa. The reason for that is independent visa very limited, and you will have to have very high score. And even if you do have a very high score, again, there is no guarantee that the government will get you invitation. So in this case, it's very important for you to plan what are you doing and when. The reason for that is obviously, for example, age of the candidate, work experience, English. So everything is ongoing and everything is, your score may be changing over time. And if you're waiting for too long, you may simply miss the opportunity. So for those of you who are currently offshore, we have several states open for offshore candidates, and I will be talking about it in a moment. So skilled visas overall in general lifted their English requirement higher this year for both onshore and offshore candidates. And currently, realistic level of English for primary candidate is proficient, meaning IELTS 7 in each component of PTE 65. So that's what you need to aim for. And for secondary applicant is competent level, meaning IELTS 6 or equivalent PTE. So it needs to be done in order to obviously allow points and allow speedy processing. Another things to consider in the skilled visas are points for your overall work experience. So depending on your occupation and obviously points you will be awarded after your skill assessment, just examine this document carefully to claim the points correctly, because your expression of interest, state nomination, and later on visa will all be linked together. And if you make any mistake anywhere in the process, it's going to lead to absolute disaster. So for offshore candidates, let's discuss state by state what's going on. First of all, the long-term states that open for overseas candidates was Tasmania and South Australia. So for Tasmania, there are a particular list of their own occupation and requirements, usually at least 3 years of work experience, but no particular points. Though when Tasmania ran their own webinars in regards to state sponsorship and their preferences, they mentioned that basically if you have a job offer, it's going to go in your favor. Otherwise, they will be picking and selecting the candidates really, really carefully. So you need, again, to consider Tasmania if you would like to, and possibly search for a job offer to increase your chances. But at the same time, if there is no jobs in your occupation, or it's going to be hard to impossible to find a job there, maybe it's not your location at all. So Tasmania will be offering 491 visas, not 190 for offshore candidates. Talking about the next state is South Australia. I would say so far we've worked with this state and they give us invitation for offshore candidates within 2 months, including registration of interest, expression of interest, and state sponsorship processing. So it's fairly quick processing, and they have a lot of interesting occupations. Though, again, they lifted up the English language requirements for the majority of occupation, and you will be unpleasantly surprised that for majority of occupation is going to be 7.5, sometimes even 8 IELTS or equivalent PT or any other alternative for English. And at the same time, state sponsorship would like candidates to have 5 or sometimes 8 years of work experience. So it's pretty much they would like senior professionals to apply and obviously get the best of the candidates. In regards to overall points, though, South Australia pretty all right, and overall points can be considered still 65. So you see on the balance, you have higher English language and higher requirements for work experience, but points remain to the lowest position, 65, and only 491 visas will be available for offshore candidates. So make your good selection and check whether you'll have any job opportunities there. So for South Australia, interestingly, it's a really good state for the candidates who don't want or can't find any job offers, because that's not a requirement whatsoever. So you need to satisfy the minimum requirements per your occupation, if your occupation exists, for offshore applicants, first of all, of course. And once you satisfy all the requirements, it's pretty much technicalities to go through the process. So for this state, no job offer required for offshore candidates, which is a great news. So you need to work on your English, and obviously if you still don't have any opportunities for to satisfy higher level of your work experience, yes, you need to work on that. Or again, potential is there if you look at your occupation for offshore applicants for this state and you see that you can't satisfy English or work experience or both. Do look for the requirements of onshore candidates instead, to see if you will be able to consider going there and study, because the requirements for onshore offshore candidates for that state is not the same. And obviously if you're coming onshore and studying there, depending on the program of study, it's going to be beneficial. And if your occupation is on the list, that's a potential very good alternative option to just come over and make your migration journey potentially quicker. And also aim for 190 visa after completion of your study. So offshore for South Australia, only 491. Onshore, both options, depending on obviously requirements for particular occupation. So next state, which surprised us a lot, was ACT Canberra. So Canberra, at this moment of time, again, offering you both options for 119, 491, which is surprisingly awesome. Not a lot of states are offering both permanent and temporary visa option. Again, they are limited by their own list of occupations who they would like to see migrating. And for that particular state, it's a lot of IT occupations, so it's a good opportunity for IT professionals to consider this location. In order to get 190 or 491 from offshore, you need to work, put it that way. So you need to work hard to get your hard evidence of researching whether you will be employable in this location or whether you get a job offer. But when you're doing research, you either get a job offer eventually, or you will have a lot of evidence to apply and show your research. So either or, you're doing one job to satisfy potentially two options. So in order to get 190, you will have to get a job offer. And please be cautious and careful, because that's a lot of fake job offers, or offers to pay for job offer in the market at this moment because of the high demand. So don't do it, because obviously it can ruin the whole your migration journey, and that's not a good idea to do so. So that's a lot of companies who are still on the hunt for right candidates. So of course you need to do some work and apply, follow up, maybe go through interview, but you're doing yourself a favor, really, because it's going to work for you in the long-term run. And even if you will get all negative responses, and obviously a lot of companies will say, okay, if you're going to come onshore, we're going to consider you, then you still can save this list for your future steps. And obviously when you come over, here you go, you have all list of occupations available already. So in order to go for 190, you need a job offer. So formal document that obviously an employer from Australia is offering you a job in ACT in your particular occupation. If you can't get a job offer, you need to do a thorough research and provide report, so to say, considering all the factors how you will be employable in this state. And in this particular situation, you will be aiming for 491. So do not lodge any expression of interest for that state until you get your research and understand what's happening. Because even if you lodge it and get invited, you will have to produce evidence. And if you don't have none, I don't think you will be having enough time to produce all the evidence. So we need to work closely. That's what we do now with the applicants in the locations if job offers are required. So we work together with the applicants to assist them in combining all the evidence and basically, guiding them how to do it. And then depending on the situation, we take over if employers need some advice in regards to the visas and what their commitments are. So we will work together as a team to lead the whole case to the result. So ACT again, 190 with job offer, 491 with thorough job research, and limited occupation according to their list. So, and the next state that offers applicants currently 190 and 491 is New South Wales. So most demanded, most wanted. So for 190 from overseas, again, there are limitations on what occupations are available, and the majority of occupations will require at least 3 years of work experience. So again, overall, states wants more skilled candidates with more points. New South Wales state does not impose any minimum maximum, but it's a very competitive state. So if you're aiming to lodge any application there, you have to collect as many points as you can potentially to be competitive among other candidates. So 190 is available, and again, you need to be ready with all the evidence about each and every category you're claiming, because once you get any invitation from New South Wales, they're limiting you to apply and get all the evidence they need within a certain time frame, and it's usually 14 days. So you need to make sure everything is ready prior to lodgement of your expression of interest. If we're talking about 491, that also limited by particular region and particular occupation. So not every single occupation will be available. But if occupation is on the list for 491, you can potentially apply from offshore. Again, you need to be competitive in regards to your points. And for 491 visa with New South Wales, we have a certain windows to apply. So currently we have window to apply until the end of January. The next window will be in March. So you need to, again, plan carefully when it is possible for you to apply for New South Wales. And if it's doable, you need to lodge your application within committed time frame. For 190 visa with New South Wales, there is no particular window you can lodge anytime you like. Again, the problem with 190 is that they do not provide you any time frame when your application will be considered. So once lodged, you just need to monitor your email, including your spam folder, just in case not to miss the invitation itself. So for 491, it's pretty much limited. So once this window of application is closed, then you may expect to get an invitation if you are competitive in the field, say within 2 to 3 weeks after the window is closed, in order to understand whether you will be invited or not. So if not, you will be allowed to apply in the next window, which will be March. So that is all the options for offshore applicants at the moment. We were waiting for Queensland state to reopen. It was promised in December, but December is very busy month, and Christmas and all these sorts of stuff. So unfortunately, Queensland haven't been open yet. We're still waiting, so maybe that's the next potential state that may be open for offshore applicants. So keep an eye on what's going to be on shortly. In regards to onshore applicants, so people who are considering coming on a student visa and then applying for the state, it will really depend on your occupation. And my advice would be to check the work opportunities with your occupation and state where you're planning to come. And obviously check your requirements for state sponsorship, again, in this state where you're planning to go on student visa. The reason for that is simple. You would like to obviously have options for any future steps, because if you will be coming with no plan, you simply can waste your time, money, and efforts with no outcome. So you need to know what are you going to be doing. So for every state, there are certain favors for applicants who are studying in the state and who graduated from particular qualification in this state. So you need to know what states favors, first of all, and second, for the majority of states, again, and the current climate, they would like to see candidates working in their occupation. So therefore, preliminary research of your particular occupation's options and opportunities to find work is absolutely crucial for you to understand what's going to be happening. And if you go a little bit further and smarter, you can create a list of potential employers while you're offshore in order to come onshore and then be ready to attack potential employment and see whether you will have luck securing the job. So that's proactive approach. In regards to another state of a lot of people's interest, I would like to mention that's Victoria. So currently it's getting a little bit harder with that state to apply under state sponsorship with any occupation, because Victoria changed their priorities this year for STEM sector, meaning science, technology, engineering, math, and medical. So basically, they don't have a certain particular list. They're still using the wide list from Department of Home Affairs, but they would like candidates to apply their skills with that particular target sectors and show the state how they're applying this. So basically, you need to be very careful to understand whether you will be able to secure any job that relates to your occupation at the same time within the field of STEM in order to secure any state sponsorship with Victoria State. So you see, guys, it's not as straightforward. And when I got the inquiry, what's the best location, what's the course that lead me to permanent residency, there is no answer to that question. There is no single answer to that. The reason for that is it heavily depends on what you have already in hand. So what's your resume, your background, your English, and obviously then your budget, whether you can afford master degree or above, or obviously you can go on any vocational studies, but with the vision that you will go and find employment. So it's a variety of strategies how to use coming to Australia, student visa, for example, to then plan ahead. It's not a bad idea to consider student visa, but you need to make sure that you're going to the right state then to make your migration as quickly as you potentially can. So another visas I would like to talk about today would be employer-sponsored visa, parents visa, partner visa. So let's start with employer-sponsored visa. At this moment of time, those visas are given a priority because Australia is struggling to get skilled workers, and employers start looking at overseas workforce more actively at this moment of time. So again, it's a good climate for those who are not shy to start searching for employment and even calling employment positions to see whether it's doable. So employers will be looking for offshore candidates. For those of you who has occupation that can possibly perform your skills online, my best advice is to offer this opportunity for the employer to look at you, because that's going to benefit their judgment about your skills and whether you will be the right candidate. So certainly consider mentioning it in your cover letter. If your occupation is not possible in your occupation to show the skills, the next step would be either to come to Australia or just do a good search of employment from offshore and see how it's gonna end, because the bottom line of that, in the majority of occupation, especially for trades, employers would prefer you to show them the skills. So obviously, resume on its own will not reflect your skills. Alternative way doing that, if you are say mechanic, we had a very good case for mechanic who basically showed them the videos, what he was doing and how skilled he was, and employers was very satisfied, and we were lodging sponsorship nomination and 482 visa through pandemic, currently waiting for the results. So you see, sometimes it's not going to be a straightforward interview, but it's still doable for you to show the skills in one way to another. Don't forget, only resume will not impress this day and age. So if you have any portfolio, if you're, for example, designer, you can potentially do a portfolio and show what are you doing. If you're draftsman, potential is there again to show some of your projects. If you're trades, potential is there to prepare some sort of video portfolio and show what are you doing to impress the employers. So there are a lot of opportunities how you can show yourself. And don't forget to do it, because just simply sending one piece of resume without cover letter, without any information who you are, will probably go in the bin. But processing time of employer-sponsored visas are relatively quick now, and we have a specific priority list. And if your occupation is there, you can even expect the processing time quicker than average. So that's a bonus. And I would say that's a really good consideration for you guys to start working on employment search. Next, a lot of questions I received about parents' visa. So a lot of people got stuck in Australia and would like now to meet with the parents. So current ruling, the parents are able to come on a visitor visa if the child is permanent resident Australian citizen or a partner of permanent resident visa holder or Australian citizen. So we've done quite a few visas for parents whose children were waiting for partner visa, as an example, and were in a relationship with Australian citizen. So that's possible under current climate. Not only visa is required, but also exemption to travel, where the parent will have to be either medically exempt from vaccination or fully vaccinated according to current TGA standards. So you need to understand whether your parents satisfy the requirements to enter Australia before you will be arranging the visitor visa. And obviously, depending on the visitor visa granted and the condition, then you can plan the next step to either bring parent temporary or bring parent for permanent stay. So it depends on your overall strategy. And we were successfully implementing steps for aged parents to come and apply for parents' visa from Australia. Also, it depending on your overall plan, so whether your parent would like to stay or just would like to visit you here. So parents' visas are possible. The queue for permanent parents' visa getting longer and longer. So my advice is always, if you are considering your parents' relocation when you're eligible to be a sponsor, don't delay, because the queues are getting longer and the waiting time is possibly getting longer. In terms of partners, let's discuss this area as well and the current climate, what's happening. So partners' visas are processed, and these visas are given a priority as well, meaning you can potentially get the decision within 3 to 6 months for partner visa, obviously, if you are in a relationship, if you can provide a lot of documents. Another question I constantly have in regards to bringing partners is whether you can bring the partners who you've never seen or just had their online relationship just for a quick visit. So at this moment of time, my answer is no. So it's not going to be possible if you have never seen each other and you just met online and carry on the relationship online, not at this moment in time, but when Australia will be reopened for all tourists, it's going to be obviously a good idea to execute visitor visa first and then consider any partner's visa later down the track. So if you ever met with your partner offline, so at least once face to face, and then obviously pandemic forced you to be apart, in this case, you possibly will be able to consider prospective marriage visa. Those type of visas are currently processed at around 3 to 6 months mark from our practical experience lodging decision ready cases. So it's not as long as you may see average on the Department of Home Affairs website. So it's not as scary a long wait. It's possible and doable. If by any odd chance you met the person online, and obviously visitors visas for tourists are not possible at this moment of time, but you would like to go overseas to meet your future partner and possibly live there for a while, you can clearly consider, depending on time you're going to spend overseas with your partner, to consider partner visa based on relationship and evidence you can build overseas. So we executed advice and obviously guidelines, execution of visa lodgement, and getting a favorable outcome for clients who engage us just before they were going overseas in order to collect all evidence we need and proceed with partners visa from offshore. That is possible. Another alternative, again, to prove to department you are in partners relationship, de facto or married, you need to go overseas and live with your partner. For example, get married or live, obviously, if you've been living there for more than 12 months. You can consider coming to Australia together, bringing your partner on a visitor visa. So that in that case, if you've been recently living together or you are still living together, it is doable to get a visitor visa for your partner because you can prove, for example, de facto relationship because you are together or were together for a long time. Therefore, for partner visa, there are still options there, and these options can be potentially executed fairly quickly. So just briefly mention on the business visa and global talent before I answer your questions. In regards to global talent, now the hardest part is to get the nominator. So there are two potential target sectors where you can get the nominator through the organizations in Australia. It's for IT sector is ACS, for engineering sector is Engineers Australia. If you can satisfy the criteria, that's the best goal, and you certainly can execute that. Alternatively, if you don't have a nominator, or if your target sector is pretty complicated, it's hard to find one from offshore, you can potentially consider coming to Australia again, studying. You can do a PhD. And then for PhD recent candidates, the requirements are fairly eased. And then again, you need to play all your achievement list and how you're going to make it happen carefully. And then at the end of these studying PhD in the right sector, you can possibly consider lodging the global talent visa. So that's alternatively a room for those who don't mind studying and are a fan of obviously research and would like to contribute to Australia in that way. Because when you're doing your research, obviously you're getting more and more network connections, and then it's likely that university may support your application for global talent. Because for offshore candidates currently, the nominated time of expression of interest is compulsory. So that changed quite recently, because before that you could have lodged expression of interest without nominator. So expression of interest timing for global talent is completely illogical, and you don't know any timeline. Some applicants are waiting for a year to get processed, though the visa for global talent is processed fairly quickly, can do potentially can be done within 4 weeks if medical stamp, police clearance, and their decision ready application. So global talent can be considered by highly ranked candidates with a lot of achievements. So not for everyone. And at the end of this session, I would like to briefly touch business visas, what's happening in this domain for those of you who potentially may be interested in that. So classic business visas are still there. We're processing those. They're giving a priority processing by the department, but still we're sitting at 12 months mark of processing for 188 visa in every single sector. So whether you're a business owner or investor, therefore is not as quick as some of you may expect. In regards to other business visas options, I would say alternatives, if you not satisfy the criteria of standard business visas, I usually recommend to look at state sponsorship visa options where you go through 190 or 491 visa, but you have to be onshore. Usually, obviously, you're coming as a student and then making your way studying and then applying undergraduate visa. So for those of you who would like to consider this pathway, there are a variety of states who offer a variety of options. So currently, that's ACT again. Interestingly enough, ACT is requiring applicants to buy at least 51% of shares in a business with no minimum commitment, and then you can potentially consider 190 visa. So I would say it's a quickest possible way to get to 190 if you can't do it offshore. So you still need to satisfy the criteria for English, skill assessment, minimum 65 points, and obviously buy a business in ACT. Then, if you would like to establish your own business, two possible states where you would like to go is South Australia. They have particular interest in targeted sectors of economy where they would favor the candidates. Or you can go to Tasmania. That state is also available for small business program. Then, if you would like to buy a business and live in our sunny Queensland, in this state, again, our state government would like the applicant to buy a business up front, so to become a sole owner, and you need to make your investment of at least 100,000 into the small business. So it's quite significant, especially considering you have to go onshore first on student visa, spend money there, and then apply for graduate visa. And only on graduate visa you will be able to make further steps in order to satisfy small business owner program in Queensland. So any other states are not currently offering this program, so there are still limitations. So in regards to having a summary of what's going on, so Australia is opening up slowly, but we are. Therefore, you can certainly consider a variety of options for limited states that favors offshore applicants, or considering student visas to come onshore, or considering searching for employment, searching for partner, and then see what's going to happen in this domain. But realistically, it's not as straightforward steps. So everything needs to be carefully planned in order for you to make sure you're not getting frustrated or spending money for nothing with some courses that will not bring you any results or any favors in your further migration planning. So I strongly recommend you guys to subscribe here, because we are considering all sorts of scenarios. We're posting cases. I'm advising what can be done in this situation, or consider coming to see me already for individual consultation, where I provide full advice and full assessment what can be done in your particular situation and what sort of steps and expenses you may incur when you will be executing all these steps. So please feel free to reach me out. I'm available through the email or through free assessment form, or I'm more than welcome for you guys to book a consultation with me. So answering the question before I go today, does 3 months study would be eligible to get a student visa? Unfortunately, no, because 3 months study is possible on the visitor visa up to 3 months, but at this moment of time, visitors on the tourist visa are just not permitted to come over. Therefore, for student visa, minimum amount of time for study is going to be 4 months plus, but it would be hard to find any course for 4 months. You can possibly get 4 months English course, planning it weekly, to get at least 6 months of student visa in order to come to Australia and study in a short period of time. So, thank you very much for seeing me and coming on my live session today. I really appreciate that. We will be keep posting all the news, so stay with us and see how your migration journey will evolve in 2022. I certainly wish you all the best in your journey and hope that your migration dream will come true. Thank you.